Hi there, my name's Simon Drew, and welcome to the Practical Stoic podcast, where I give you practical Stoic advice for modern times. If you'd like to see more information about this podcast, or if you'd like to see more of my free resources, just go to my website. It's risetothegoodlife.com. But for now, I really hope that you enjoy this podcast, and if you do, then I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe on iTunes and leave a positive review so that more people can have the chance to listen to this great work. Hello there, I'm Simon Drew, and welcome to the Practical Stoic podcast. Now, before I get into the episode, I really wanted to take a few minutes to check in with you guys and say hi. Because the last few weeks of episodes have actually been pre-recorded, and so I haven't had a chance to say hi to you or do the normal short intro before the episode. And the reason is because I knew that I was going to be extremely busy over the last few weeks and into the next few weeks, and so I actually recorded everything and I've been releasing them as I go. But I'm actually in Texas now, and so I've come over here from Australia. I've come to the States and visiting some family here in Texas, and then I'll be heading up to Virginia soon. And so I've had a little bit of extra time in between hanging out with the family just to do a few more things with the podcast, to reply to a few more people, so I'm sorry if you've sent me an email and I've only just replied to it. But anyway, I was here for Thanksgiving, and I did want to take a brief moment to say that I really hope that all of my American listeners over here had an incredible Thanksgiving. And, you know, whether you celebrate Thanksgiving or not, I believe that the message is a positive one, and it's all about gratitude, it's all about family, and I did really want to take a moment to say that I am so incredibly grateful for all of you who have supported me in this podcast, whether you've been listening or sending me emails or messages or giving me reviews. You know, every review, every message, every email, every download motivates me to keep on going with this podcast. And so I just wanted to share this gratitude with you, say thank you so much for being listeners of this podcast. Thank you for finding value in what I'm putting out there, because it really does mean the world to me that what I have to say is impacting people's lives. And before I get into the episode, I wanted to do a couple of things. I want to read a few of the reviews that I've got because I have got so many more reviews that have come in and I just haven't had a chance to actually read them on the podcast, so I've got a few favorites that I wanted to read. And before I do that, when I came over here to America, I was actually told by my father-in-law that he's been listening to the podcast and it's been impacting his life, so I did really want to do just a quick shout out to him. Thank you so much, David, for listening, and keep on listening. I'm so glad that it's been impacting your life so far. It's always good to know that your family has been appreciating the work that you've been doing. So here are a couple of reviews that I wanted to read. First, there's one from a person in Sri Lanka, and it's so incredible to see how many different nations have been listening to my podcast, people in different nations. And so it might be good one day to actually list off the, top 10 countries that have been listening to my podcast. But for now, this person in Sri Lanka says, "Thank you is the very least thing that I can say. One of the best and most valuable podcasts on iTunes. Keep up the good work, Simon. Thank you again." So thank you so much to that person. I really appreciate you listening, and keep on listening. This next review comes from a person in the United States, and they say, "I'm so happy that I found this podcast as it reminds me to live stoic and continue to grow every day. Whenever I feel off balance, I listen to this quick podcast and I feel centered again. Thank you so much for the positive vibes. Much love." So thank you so much for that review. I really appreciate it. And honestly, that is what the podcast is all about. Continuing to grow every single day. That's all I want. If I can help you in some way to become a better person than you were yesterday, that's what I want out of this podcast. And the last review that I want to read, I really enjoyed this one. They said, this is from the United States also, but they said, "Listening brings to mind being a part of a rowing crew out in the mist and gloom, with Simon as our first-rate coxswain, kindly shouting encouragement and direction, reminding us of the strength within. We can indeed be better beings. Thank you so much for a delightfully insightful podcast." Now, I really appreciated the awesome analogy in that review, and thank you so much for thinking about that and putting that review out there. I really appreciate you listening to the podcast, and keep on listening. And now I know that I said I was going to get straight into the episode after reading some reviews, but I just remembered that I have had emails from people where they've offered suggestions for new topics that I might go into, or some ideas for podcast ideas. And I just wanted to say, if you're one of those people who has requested an episode or a topic, I'm really sorry that I haven't done it so far. It's only because I have actually written and recorded episodes up to about 3 more weeks from now. And so once this busy period of my life is over, I'll be able to sit back and think about what you've suggested to me and really put together an episode that suits the description and is able to help you out more than what I could do now. So anyway, thank you so much to all of you. I'm grateful for you. Keep on listening and enjoy this episode of the Practical Stoic Podcast. I want to start this episode by giving you a bit of a scenario. Imagine you're at the gym and you're doing a great workout like you usually do. Now, whether you're actually the kind of person who goes to the gym or not is irrelevant, so just stick with me. So you're going along and you feel like everything's going pretty well, but then out of the corner of your eye you catch another person walking towards you, as if they have something to say. They come up and introduce themselves, and they explain that they noticed that when you're doing this particular lift, your back is slightly curved. They mention that they used to do the exercise like that, which eventually led to injury and many months out of the gym. So they suggest that you would do well to fix that issue so that you don't have those same problems down the line. You thank them for their advice, and you both part ways. But now that they've gone, your thoughts start to run wild. Who are they to give me advice? Did I ask for his opinion? He doesn't know me. Why should he be the king of the gym, going around giving advice? And while you're thinking all of this, you've already started doing the exercise again in the same way that you've always done it. So let's take a look at this situation. Firstly, don't be that guy at the gym who goes around correcting everyone. Nobody likes that guy. But secondly, and most importantly, can you relate to this situation in your life at all? Have there ever been times in your life when you've been offered some great advice or criticism but have immediately put it to the back of your mind? Why do we do this? Why is it so hard to take advice, or at least to put it to the test? The answer is ego. Ego is the enemy of learning and progress. Your ego often makes you believe that it's far more painful to take people's advice or to learn new skills than it is to just keep on being who you are and doing what you're doing. Your ego wants you to believe that you know everything, and that you can get to where you want to be just by doing what you've always done. You're the boss. You're the king. You can do anything. I would say that one of the main reasons why so many people plateau in life is because their ego leads them to believe that they have no more room for improvement. Why should I read another book? Why would I need to get a personal trainer? Why should I have to listen to this person teach me about life? I'm old enough now. I'm smart enough now. I know what life is all about. Do you know anyone like this? I think we all do, and we must be cautious to not become this kind of person. Keep your ego in check so that you're always able to learn. One of the core values of Stoicism is the constant search for wisdom and virtue, and we cannot continue this search unless the ego has been put in its rightful place. Marcus Aurelius was the true master of his ego. He was the emperor of Rome, a position that would feed a person's ego far more than necessary, and yet he was humble and a true seeker of wisdom. I don't know if I could have been as humble as he was if I had been in his position, but I like to imagine that if I had been exposed to Stoic teachings, which he had been in the form of writings from Epictetus, then I may have had a better chance of remaining humble. One of my favorite quotes from Marcus Aurelius really showcases his humility and love for knowledge. He said, quote, "If any man is able to convince me and show me that I do not think or act right, I will gladly change. For I seek the truth by which no man was ever injured, but he is injured who abides in his error and ignorance." End quote. There are so many lessons to learn from this simple quote. First, he has a full and open willingness to learn from any person, as long as they are able to show him that he is thinking or acting incorrectly. This is one of the most important skills to develop in life, an open willingness to learn from anyone as long as what they teach is the truth. It actually reminds me of something that I find quite alarming, which is when I speak with people who refuse to listen to or learn from somebody simply because they have a particular stance on another subject. They say, "How can you listen to that person? Look at what they said on Twitter," or "I don't want to hear anything that they have to say. They're a part of this group." This is very fuzzy thinking because a person expressing a truth is separate from the actual truth which they're expressing. Just because somebody believes one thing does not mean that they don't know the truth about another thing. And just because somebody makes a mistake in their past doesn't mean that we could not learn from them. If we were only ever going to learn from people who share our exact values and beliefs, then we'd never learn or grow. Marcus Aurelius gives off a vibe that he would be the kind of person who would gladly learn from anyone as long as they spoke the truth. It is the ego that keeps us from learning from people simply because they differ from us in their own opinions. The next thing that intrigues me about Marcus Aurelius's words is that he says, quote, "I seek the truth by which no man was ever injured, but he is injured who abides in his error and ignorance." End quote. This is true wisdom. Are you a seeker of the truth, or are you a seeker of fodder for your ego? Do you ever want to truly learn? Or do you want to find ways to make yourself feel as though you're doing better than average? The truth never hurts anyone, ever. What hurts people is their ego and their ignorance. When we have the opportunity to learn new skills or become better people, but we choose to allow our ego to talk us out of it, that is when we truly hurt ourselves. When we hear the truth but we act as if we had not, that is when we hurt ourselves. When we choose to remain ignorant on a subject that could potentially change our lives, that is when we hurt ourselves. When we choose comfort over progress, that is when we hurt ourselves. These are self-inflicted injuries that begin with an unchecked ego and a willingness to remain ignorant. Never allow your ego to keep you from becoming better or from getting to a new level in life. There are always improvements to be made, people to learn from, skills to develop, and information to be ingested. Don't let your ego keep you from obtaining virtue and wisdom, which are far more valuable than your ego ever will be. Keep on learning, keep on seeking new ways to improve. You don't know everything, and you never will, but while you can, take the opportunity to learn and grow as much as you possibly can. If you don't, there will come a time when you'll realize that you've allowed some of the most valuable lessons to pass you by, just because you thought that you knew it all. Nobody knows everything, but everybody knows something. So go out there and learn as much as you can from as many people as you can. This is the way of a true Stoic. Hello there, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'm so grateful for your support, and I'm grateful that you're lending me your ear and learning about this fascinating philosophy with me. I hope that each episode is allowing you to become more empowered on your journey with Stoicism. If you'd like to get in contact with me, then you can absolutely do so by going to my website, which is risetothegoodlife.com, and you can send me an email via the contact page. Also, if you'd like to see me on Facebook, it's Daily Stoic Quotes, where I like to post a Stoic quote every single day that inspires you. Also, if you haven't reviewed the podcast as of yet, then I really would appreciate it if you'd do so. You can give me a 1-star review, or you can give me a 5-star review. It doesn't matter as long as you're sharing your opinion with me and sharing with me how I can improve the podcast. Anyway, I'll talk to you next time, but until then, I hope that this episode has helped you on your rise to the good life. Ciao. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Practical Stoic Podcast. I really hope that it's valuable to you, and I really hope that it helps you to live a better life. If it has been valuable to you, please don't forget to subscribe on iTunes and leave a positive review. If you'd like to see more free resources, just go to my website. It's risetothegoodlife.com.